Hey, this is Nem, and today, don't look at my messy desktop, don't look at my Steam. Today, we are going to cover XIV Sim and how it is valuable to you. Any old web browser here, we're gonna open up our Blackmage Compendium, Chrome. XIV Sim is a very specific thing that you want to know some details about in order to find success using it, because it is a third-party website. Don't let that scare you. It is okay to use XIV Sim because it is not, well, you are not using data from the game. It is a recreation of assets in the game. It doesn't actually use them in Unity. So, XIVSIM.com. You can also Google search it, XIV Sim, right? And it's right here. You can get a few links, so pay attention to the ending. Like this one, it says FFXIV Raid Simulator, but you'll notice that it says top here, right? This is going to open up the top one specifically, but what if you don't want a sim top? And what even is a sim? Well, this is the main page, XIV Sim, and it is a phenomenal tool where you can load into a recreation of certain raid mechanics to practice them without having to prog to that mechanic every time, right? So if you click play here, you'll notice that we get a bunch of options. There's older content, there's DSR, Abysso Savage, Omega Protocol, and Abysseo Savage. If you click on older content, I don't remember what's in there. I'm pretty sure Uwu is going to be in there. Let's take a look. But you click on it, and then it does this. It loads the assets, right? And so you're going to click on whatever job you want to be. Moo Moo Kachu. Oh, I ran out of characters. Moo Moo Moo. And then you select a region near you, right? And you request a server. Now, this is an overwhelmingly popular tool. 8,000 plus users per day. So the dev does ask if you want to help support the infrastructure that holds us, because he does have to pay like every so often, probably for, it's either going to be based on usage per day or it's going to be based on like a monthly charge depending on how he has it set up. But he's going to have to pay for these servers to host this application that he built, right? And so if you do donate to him, you can message him on Discord in the Discord server, and he'll give you priority queue access to this tool, so that if you set this up for your static, right, you don't have to wait like 20 minutes. And let me tell you, I don't have priority queue right now. I set this up for my static to use all the time, and we have to wait sometimes, and it's really obnoxious, so I should probably fix that for my static. But we're going to request a server here, and then you can copy this URL and send this to anyone, and they can join your session as long as it's active. Right, so the URL right at the top. We're going to click accept.
Map changing.
And this is XIV Sim. It gives you a 20-minute session to practice raid mechanics with your friends. You get more time in priority queue if you pay. This is the older one, so you can do P4S mechanics. You can do Uwu and T. This is really, really helpful. Limit cut sim. The wormhole sim isn't as good. It's good, but if you want a true wormhole sim for T, there is a Korean simulator for that. But how you use this tool is that first, we're just going to go over all the features. Pause. Pause makes it so no one can move, so you can look at mechanics in the middle of the mechanic if you need to examine it. And it supposedly pauses the clock. It doesn't actually pause the clock. My clock is now out of sync, and the session is still going to end at the 20-minute mark. I don't know if that's a bug or whatever. It's just not well designed on the clock. But the clock, this does not technically allow you to extend your session. It doesn't work like that, even though it tries to tell you that it does. For the timeline feature, this is where you actually pick your mechanic. So most people use these for Savage and Ultimate mechanics. So let's pretend we wanted to learn a limit cut on T, right? You just select it and you click load, right?
Map changing. Starting P1 P2 transition.
And so this is limit cut for T. Now I'm going to pause it just a second, and we are going to turn off damage. So damage is disabled because this is an 8-man mechanic, and you will die if you only have 1 player. You need 8 players to do this mechanic. Auto pause disabled. I don't really know what auto pause does. And then there's a settings page here for you to configure your gamepad or your keyboard settings to use this tool. You have way markers, right? You can place those. And it gives you all the movement tools in the game. So rescue is here, anti-knockback, sprint, ethereal manipulation if you're a black mage, like all the tools, gap closers, teleports, you know, backflips, everything that every job has is on this bar, so you can emulate playing your actual job, right? And as far as this goes, like it does a pretty damn good job, right? So you can sprint, you can anti-knockback. This is where the one player gets hit. Like boom. See, you can actually do the mechanic. And so in T, you normally have to kill an entire boss to get to this mechanic, but you can just practice it over and over until you have it memorized. You know, because some of these mechanics you have to memorize a lot of permutations. I was the 1 player this time, but if there's other players here, I might be the 7 player, the 8 player, and I need to know those things. You know. So there's a chat bar on the left. It does have gamepad support, but I always use mouse and keyboard, and I know many controller players who also just use mouse and keyboard for this mechanic, because the simulation isn't going to get you to be perfect at the mechanic. It's going to get you to have perfect knowledge of the mechanic. You're going to know how the mechanic works and how you're supposed to be moving. It's going to be a little different in the game, you know, like it's not a one-to-one recreation. So when you get into the game, you got to get used to doing the mechanic in the game. The timing might be a little different. The server ticks might be going off slightly differently than how it executes in the sim. Maybe the spacing of the markers or the spacing of the map is a little bit bigger or wider or something like that. So you got to get used to that stuff. And so this isn't going to make you perfect at the mechanic per se. It's going to get you pretty damn close though. So you can use this to practice. It usually takes 8 players to come into here and actually complete these mechanics. Like I can't practice this limit cut mechanic, which needs 8 players, because it randomly assigns a number 1 to 8 to all players for this mechanic. I can only practice number 1 if I'm in here by myself. And now you can do a lot of cool stuff, like you can save your waymarks in your browser, right? And you can, you know, do pause on death and you know, do a bunch of you can spawn mobs. I don't know why you would, but you know, you can spawn this thing in here and I don't know, it's here now, you know. So, and then of course, whenever you practice a mechanic, you just click reset, and then you make sure you have it selected still, and then you just click
starting P1 P2 transition,
right? And it does it again. It's very loud, it's very obnoxious sometimes, but it's very good. It's very, very helpful for learning raid mechanics. Now, the reason why we need a video about this is because I don't want to just give you this tool and say, all right, off you go. I want to actually teach you how to fix it, because this tool breaks all the time. I want to learn Anabaseo Savage. So the newest of the new have some cool features where you don't need 8 people to sim the mechanic. Oh, we broke it. We broke it. See? So this is what I'm talking about. I'm going to refresh, and you'll notice that it's broken. How do you fix it when it's broken? There's a few things you can do. One, you can try another web browser. So let's pretend I go down to Firefox, right, and I throw that in here, and then we see, is it gonna work? Look, it worked, right? So another browser can work, but what if you don't have another browser? There's some other things you can try, and you're gonna need to try all of these things, because sometimes one solution will work and sometimes another will work. But the theory that we have about this is that it stores files locally on your machine, temporary web files, and those temporary web files sometimes cause it to break. So what we want to do is clear temporary files. So in Chrome, you have cookies and other site data, cached images and files. You can go to advanced as well just to make sure. Hosted app data, I don't know what this is, maybe that is it, and you can just clear this out. So I'm going to clear all of this stuff out, see if that helps, and then I'm going to restart my browser. See, I shouldn't have done that. God damn it. Because you know, it did clear out my profile. I'll have to log back into that. But if we go to XIV FFXIVSim.com here. Let's see if it will load now. Embassy of Savage. To do it. Oop, I think it's still broken. Oh, no, and it fixed it. See, so it can be simple as clearing out those temporary files. That's usually your issue. It can also be hardware acceleration. So here's an interesting tidbit. If we go to the settings for Chrome, I'm going to do hardware. And there's this feature. Hardware acceleration needs to be enabled for this sim to work. In every browser, every modern browser is going to have this feature. But sometimes you have to turn it off, click relaunch, launch XIVSIM, try to get it to load, see if it does. Then if it works, it'll be super laggy, right? So then you have to turn hardware acceleration back on, click relaunch, and then launch XIVSIM again. And then you have to hope you didn't run into the temporary file issue, which you can, right? You can. So you might have fixed the first issue, then you got a second issue where you have to clear out the temporary files again, and then relaunch it, and then you should be all set in your current browser. But if that doesn't work, the current claim to fame is that Microsoft Edge actually seems to be the most consistent from what people tell me. I use Chrome for it every single time. I've pretty much fixed every issue that you can have with it in Chrome, so you know it's not a big deal. But we're going to go back in here now to continue what we were talking about before. And that is
map changing.
Playing on your own. So this is Anabaseo Savage P12S, and let's pretend that I need friendship. So you'll notice there's a lot more buttons now. You know, you can practice super chain theory. Let's pretend I want to do classical concepts 2, damage disabled, just because it's an example. Show AoEs disabled. You can actually turn this on to understand how the AoEs work a little bit better, and then take that off as you prepare yourself. And same RNG means, like, let's say you got like in limit cut, it can give you 1 to 8. Maybe you got 2. You can click same RNG to always get 2 after that to keep practicing the same thing. I don't remember what AM is, but is it auto marker? Does it stand for auto marker? Anyway, there's a people icon over here. You can actually set roles with the people icon. So maybe I want to be, well, I'm a black mage, so maybe I'm ranged 1, and then we will autofill. And now look, we have a full party of bots. So now we can load this mechanic.
Map changing.
Right.
Starting classical concepts 2.
Let's hope I remember classical concepts 2. Which one is this? Oh, this is the one that flips, right? Yeah. So we'll load this. We'll watch it happen. And we have no markers, but that's okay. So I'm X. We're going to go over here, and then we're going to flip, right? Just like this. We're going to move with our partner, and look at how the bots work, right? Wow, I actually remember this mechanic. That's crazy. I haven't done this in a while. And boom, right? And then we got to move. Then we got to move out. Oh god, okay, I don't fully remember it. It's fine. But yeah, you can practice the mechanics, right? So it is extremely helpful on the newer stuff. I'm sure the next Ultimate's going to be amazing to have in here, but you know, this is probably one of the best tools. And remember that you can save your waymarks as well, so you can replicate what you have in game. This is absolutely phenomenal. You can mark people, like look, you're well, okay, maybe I can't mark. Can I mark myself? Okay, well, I don't know what's going on with those, but yeah. And then of course you can always just come in here if you just like on avanting on every job, you know, like this. So, you know, you can follow your heart. I hope you found this extremely helpful. This is a tool that everyone should be using. Let me just cover one last thing. I know this video is long, but one last thing is that a common excuse that I hear from players that are console players is that, well, I'm a console player, I don't play on mouse and keyboard, I can't use the sim. Let me tell you, that is a mental roadblock you're putting on yourself that you need to get over. If you can get over that, you become a much more reliable and dependent player in practicing your mechanics. Like, yes, it can be a bit of an adjustment to learn how to use mouse and keyboard if you can't get the gamepad to work with this, because obviously gamepads on PCs is a whole world. Most console players are PlayStation controllers and Windows are not an easy plug and play all the time. You sometimes have to download another application and configure it. It's a whole technical mess. So it's easier for a lot of players to just say, I'm going to use mouse and keyboard on the sim for now. I'm going to get used to that just to get the knowledge of the mechanic and movement. And you can always disable damage if you're struggling with that. Just disable damage and practice it until you feel more comfortable. And then translate that knowledge to your controller when you go back in game. But don't make it an excuse. Don't make it like a point of failure for you. Just try harder when you meet those challenges in life, that try to prevent you from progressing in the way that you want to, in the way that you need to. So that's my advice. This is Nem. Thanks for watching XIV Sim, and I'll see you next time.